We knew the London production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child had entranced the British critics. The question was, would the Broadway version cast the same spell over American reviewers? And the answer is yes. All-consuming enchantment, said the New York Times. It leaves its audience awestruck, spellbound and deeply satisfied, said Time Out. Every bit as spellbinding as promised, opined The Hollywood Reporter. For the Chicago Tribune, it was a must-see. Entertainment Weekly thought it a theatrical marvel. Daily News found it wildly theatrical and thrilling Broadway spectacle. It's some kind of miracle, said Rolling Stone. And Variety simply yelled, hooray! So what was it that bewitched them into such hyperbole? Well, no matter how much we theatregoers might want to judge Harry Potter and the Cursed Child purely as a stage play, we can't avoid the legacy of 7 novels and 8 films. The story begins where the final novel in the Potter series ended, pointed out the New York Times. Chicago Tribune described it as an immersive coda to the most powerful literary brand of a generation. And many of the critics were happy with this. The show has a plot that really works as an extension of the Potter saga, said Variety. An unprecedented extension of the beloved world is making something so impossible feel so much realer than it ever could be, said the Entertainment Weekly. Some were worried that only those familiar with what had gone before would enjoy the play. The Guardian said it will deeply perplex anyone who hasn't read the delightful books or seen the so-so movies. But others were confident you didn't have to be a Potterhead. The Hollywood Reporter pointed out, there's a universal dimension to the human drama here, the challenges of parenting, the conflict between fathers and teenage sons burdened by intimidating legacies, the sustaining force of love and friendship, the eternal grip of the past. That will prove poignant and meaningful even to audiences unversed in the wizarding wars. AMNY went so far as to say a theatregoer with no prior wizarding experience should still be able to have a great time and may even find the show more enthralling than would a long-time fan who already knows the Harry Potter universe inside out. Then there was the story, which came from JK Rowling and director JohnTiffany and was scripted by one of my favourite playwrights, Jack Thorne. The script has more variations on father issues than the entire canon of Greek tragedy, said the daddy of theatre critics, the New York Times' Ben Brantley. The Hollywood Reporter was impressed by the pulse-pounding storytelling vitality and unexpected emotional richness. The Chicago Tribune said it was a must-see, totally enveloping, thoroughly thrilling chance to experience the global power of shared storytelling at its most robust. Entertainment Weekly found it unlocks new points of view, particularly in the show's climax, that are wholly unique to this play, unable to be replicated no matter how countless one's consumption of the books and movies. New York Stage Review reckoned they might as well send out the 2018 Best Play Tony Award for engraving already. And Variety described it as theatre that shows us the true magic of storytelling. And there's another thing that the theatre critics loved about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. It's proper theatre. As the New York Times put it, by contrast, most of the family-courting stage versions of animated films that have ruled the theatre districts for so long look as stiff and artificial as parades of wind-up toys. Similarly, the rap contrasted it with the stage versions of Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which dumbed the imagination with their literal interpretations. Variety summed it up by saying, the theatre has brought its own brand of wizardry to the material. The Hollywood Reporter loved its thrilling theatricality. It was, in the Chicago Tribune's eyes, a feast of epic theatricality in celebration of the imagination that manages to be both extraordinary and old-fashioned theatrical fun. The Daily News went on a similar tack. What's so wondrous is how low-tech stagecraft brings such high-definition delight. The Hollywood Reporter agreed. The ingenuity on display, often using the simplest means, is dazzling. And Time Out said, great care has gone into creating each moment of this state-of-the-art adventure. It leaves its audience awestruck, spellbound and deeply satisfied. Many critics name-checked the entire creative team. Here's the Washington Post. Director JohnTiffany and his longtime maestro of movement, Stephen Hoggett, have created a dynamic pair of evenings, replete with awe-inspiring tricks and illusions overseen by the ingenious Jamie Harrison. Christian Jones's swirling break-apart set pieces and Neil Austin's lighting effects are marvels too. Given what the Cursed Child's design team has accomplished on a technical level, said Entertainment Weekly, Broadway will never be the same. And while that publication went all apocalyptic, the New York Times went all philosophical. I am paint in memory a talking portrait of the long-dead wizard, Dumbledore says. Well, that's art, isn't it? Said the New York Times. Substitute theatrical showmanship for paint, and you have this remarkable production's elemental recipe for all-consuming enchantment. The stagecraft on display is unlike anything I've seen, with magical moments taking your breath away at every turn, said Newsday, breathlessly. And Time Out joined the chorus of approval with a concise phrase surely destined for the posters. A triumph of theatrical magic. Magic. Now that's the word that inevitably, you might say, comes up again and again. The Hollywood Reporter called it sheer magic. It contains, said the New York Times, some of the most eye-boggling illusions you'll ever witness. Going on to say it sets the new gold standard for fantasy franchise entertainment on Broadway. Now, maybe like me, you didn't know that fantasy franchise entertainment was a separate genre, but you do now. Entertainment Weekly named the wizards responsible. The show's illusion and magic designer, Jamie Harrison, and special effects chief, Jeremy Chernick, are certain geniuses. Finally, there was the cast. The leading actors are jolly good, said the Washington Post, subtly referring to their Englishness. Coming in for particular praise was Anthony Boyle, who plays Draco Malfoy's son, Scorpius, who, said the New York Times, gave a show-stealing performance. Variety called him brilliant. The Chicago Tribune said he was fabulous, adding that his emotional energy empowers the production. Entertainment Weekly, along with many others, was impressed by Jamie Parker as the grown-up Harry. The actor excels at showing this grown-up Gryffindor as a brave but stunted man, outwardly successful but inwardly tormented. It was, said the Hollywood Reporter, a finely nuanced performance with gravitas and heart. Noma Dumaswamy wowed the American critics as much as she previously impressed the British ones in London. Entertainment Weekly said she stuns as a Hermione who is both cold and warm, hardened by politics, softened by parenthood, a brilliant enigma, dealing with the frustration of a problem she cannot solve. So there you have it. A show that, thanks to its story, its theatricality, its magic, and its cast, transcends its literary and cinematic origins to become a classic piece of theatre in its own right. And that, in the words of the Washington Post, will be inducing swoons in Times Square for years to come. I'd like to end with a quote from the Chicago Tribune that seems to me to get to the very heart of why this is so much more than a mere Harry Potter spin-off. You're struck by the great beauty of both the theatre and the people inside, all thinking and feeling as one about the power and limits of love.